What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to CP Unlimited. It has been quite some time. We've had nothing to talk about the horrible last season, but now finally we are back, and we have a somewhat interesting topic here. Steven, did you make it out to Winter Chill Out this year? I did not.
I did not. I figured, there wasn't really anything new, so I didn't even bother trying to get tickets this year.
And they sold out fairly quickly too.
Even if I wanted to get tickets, I don't think I would have gotten them because I heard it was in, within maybe minutes. Not even 10 minutes.
Yeah. Because I remember looking at Winter Chill Out, the every year event at Cedar Point where they do the off-season tour through the park. Probably a lot of you have done it before, or at least have seen it. We've covered it multiple times here on COASTER-net. Our buddy Rob Dole, he did go to Winter Chill Out. He was able to get tickets, but this, I think, was the fastest sellout, and I think that it was because of limited capacity. I think they made a more concerted effort to have smaller groups. I could be wrong about that. I don't know for sure, but it sold out super quick, which I was really surprised by because it usually sells out fairly quick, but not within 10 minutes quick. I feel.
Yeah, I mean, even when Steel Vengeance was a thing, was coming about, it didn't sell out that quickly. I didn't make it out that year. But I mean,
I feel that you used to be able to get tickets you might not get your preferred time because there's different time slots, but you were able to still get tickets 30, 45 minutes later. It's sold out. You had to be ready.
It's sold out within, an hour and a half or 2 hours, but yeah, so, 10 minutes, people are just dying to get out and go and do something again.
People want to get out and do anything at this point. So the usual fare at Winter Chill Out, people going in. And one thing came out of Winter Chill Out this year is, Cedar Point is known for teasing stuff, maybe trolling people at this event. In the past, some of the bigger ones, the one that I clearly remember is a couple of years back. This was probably 2016, in that range. They had a little presentation in the back of the park in the Mean Streak warehouse. And during the presentation, they just threw up a picture of Outlaw Run. And they just threw it up there. They didn't say anything about it, and they just kept on going. And lo and behold, within a couple of years, we get Steel Vengeance. So sometimes the teases that we see at Winter Chill Out actually become something. Sometimes the teases that they throw into the different presentations that they do go absolutely nowhere. And it's funny because the teaser that they did this year that you can see on different Facebook pages all around, the biggest one that I've seen is a CP Food Blog. On their Facebook page, they have some of the pictures of the teasers in quotation marks. And there's one picture of a door that's wood. There's a sign that says top secret new roller coaster 2022 authorized personnel only. There's some other work related signs around it about COVID. One says no smoking beyond this point, unauthorized personnel keep out. Then you have this locked door. And then there is a pair of sunglasses there that's taped to the wall in neon green glow tape that says put glasses on before opening door. And then this roll of glow tape was on the floor in front of the door as well. So this wasn't, I don't get the feeling that this was something that's always there, this taped sunglasses to the wall, because the tape was also on the floor with some assorted roller coaster parts and things like that. So this has been the big one that people have been talking about. I think that people have been taking a little bit more seriously. Also in the day, on one of the dry erase boards, there was a rough crew drawing of a roller coaster track in the antique car spot that, Steve, we talked about how many times on this show already. So I don't know if they're watching the program and responding to that. But there's this roller coaster track drawn in there, and it said 524-foot T-Rex coaster coming soon. That I do think is a troll. That there's I said maybe that's where they would put it if they extended it out, into the Soak City parking lot and beyond. But so there's that, but it's, I think the main discussion here is though, and then Tony Clark. So the news picked up on this. The news loves Cedar Point
news.
stories.
I think it was News Channel 3 in Cleveland picked up on it. So but since they picked up on it, and since people have been tweeting at Tony asking, what's going on with this, he has since sent out another tweet that seems like he's kind of backtracking a lot.
Yes.
And says, you guys, this was just a little joke from Winter Chill Out, kind of like the green train for Millennium Force or Magnum XL200 is sinking. All in good fun, not official, carry on, and then smiley face emoji.
where okay, I get it that he doesn't want to talk about a new roller coaster for the next 2 years. It's kind of like if it's kind of like him and the news during the whole Steel Vengeance thing, where they hadn't yet announced Steel Vengeance, but they said Mean Streak was closing, and he kept playing this coy game of, well, Mean Streak's gone, it's not coming back, and he was on the fence. So yes, he's backtracking. I think he's backtracking because he doesn't want to field phone calls for the next 6 months about this.
Yeah, which
but
I would do as well.
you worked in the PR office. You know how it gets. I think though the timeline though of the sign that says Top Secret New Roller Coaster 2022, I think that timeline is probably pretty valid, when you think about it. That Steel Vengeance came out in 2018, so this will be 4 years. Now, the wrench that you were talking about was the whole COVID thing, right? Where how is COVID affecting?
Once the park opens again, all right, so parks bring in new rides to attract people to the park, especially roller coasters. They put roller coasters in and expect a huge attendance increase in that following year. With all the COVID stuff going on, just the fact the park reopening, we don't know if they're going to reopen as normal this year. That's another discussion. But let's say, 2022, they reopen as normal, no masks, no restrictions, no having to, make reservations, whatever. You just show up and do what you've always done. Just the fact that they would be able to do that in 2022, that would bring so many more people to the park. So they don't need a coaster that year. They wouldn't need a ride. They wouldn't need anything new. Just the fact that being back to normal would be the new thing. So that's why I don't think they need a coaster then, but they also, may not want to stray too far from whatever their, 4, 5, 6, 10-year plan is. And that could be right where it puts a new coaster.
And like when I look at it, so supposedly this year, and there's been no real official numbers on this, but I've heard that Cedar Point at least broke even this year on revenue expenditure. That we know they cut back hours, they cut back workforce, they cut back on the different rides that were open, they cut back on a whole lot of stuff, but the park was still somewhat busy on a lot of days, even though they had the restrictions
especially
on numbers,
in the fall. And they also had the hotels running. They were giving out deals even before the park opened. They were still trying to get people into the hotels to come out in June. And I've heard that they at least broke even, if not made money on the year. So I think that's an amazing deal for this COVID year, where we have, stories like Kentucky Kingdom being on the brink of bankruptcy, on being bailed out by Herschend. We have stories of little parks closing up, like Clementon closing up. We see rides closing all over the place, with Six Flags closing a whole bunch of their rides to save money. Other little parks closing rides that are maintenance nightmares. For you to come on this year and say that you broke even or even made money, I think that's a fantastic deal. That in this year, in 2020, I would say I would take that deal every single time, given the circumstances. Now, I wouldn't do that every year, but given that year and what happened last year, I would take that deal. So that being said, I still think 2022, I think this year there's a real good possibility that the park bounces back by a lot. I personally believe that the vaccines are going to roll out in late April, May.
I think we're still going to be under certain restrictions with masks and stuff like that. But I do think we're going to see a whole lot more people planning trips to Cedar Point, whether that be in July and August, or whether that be as early as May or June, depending on when people get vaccinated, when people feel comfortable going out. I think we're going to see a huge spike in attendance. So I think they're going to bounce back this year. I don't think they're going to have a record year by any sense of the word, but I do think they're going to bounce back. They're going to make money. And I think by 2022, exactly what you just said is actually going to happen. That's when you're going to have the floodgates. And I think putting in a reasonably sized roller coaster is going to put that emphasis on no, because remember, when people start going out in 2022, let's assume that 2022 is the year. You can argue if 2021 is the year, but let's assume 2022 is the year. People are going to have a whole lot of options of where to go too.
Oh yeah.
There's the people who have put off Disney trips, people who have, want to do big trips to other parks, people who just want to go do other things like visit Vegas or visit New York City. There's going to be a whole lot of options for people to go about and try to find what to do. So Cedar Point, I think they're going to see a flood, but I think they're going to have to do something extra to hook people in and say, no, Cedar Point's the place you need to go. And how do you do that? You're going to build a brand new roller coaster to say, no, you don't want to miss this one. And I don't think you need to break the bank on it. That we've been talking about the 3 areas that are still open. And
they're not huge areas.
They're not huge areas.
Like you're going to get, you're definitely not getting a 500-foot T-Rex. Although if they did, I did do a project for my project management class for my MBA program last semester where I built a 500-foot T-Rex coaster. So if they do that, I want some money because that was my idea.
That was your idea. So you still have the 3 areas that we've been talking about. We've been talking about that area next to Windseeker, that they currently have that whole open piece of land that they've been using as like a quasi stage, rest area, had some food stands there at some point for festivals. So you have that area. Then you have the area next to what was used to be Luminosity, called Celebration Plaza, next to the big stage by Iron Dragon. You have the Wildcat area. So Wildcat area is open. And then across the street, they knocked down the Cedars dorm rooms.
Yep.
And
which has been the monster truck rally for the past maybe 2-3 years, maybe.
Well, it's been there for 2 years now, but they didn't do anything with it last year though, right? I don't think so. Yeah. They had some food trucks just staged there as extra. So they had all the food trucks in that area. That's what they had. So then across the street, you have that whole open area. And then, of course, you have the antique cars area that we've been targeting for a while. And we did that whole show, months ago, where we talked about the antique cars, what you could possibly put there. So I don't want to rehash a lot of this stuff, but I do want to tie in some of the clues that we have in these photos, because I think there's something here. And the one thing that jumped out at me, because I had some of our patrons sent me the photos and said, hey, look at this. What do you think? And they were all targeting the no smoking, so there's the big no smoking sign. And when you think of no smoking, you think, well, there's a fire hazard. What's inside that door? Is it wood? And is this a wood coaster? So, and that's the one thing that's been the glaring hole in the Cedar Point lineup forever. Even when Mean Streak was open, the one criticism of Cedar Point is that they didn't have a legitimate wood roller coaster. That Mean Streak and Blue Streak, they're both like, Mean Streak was big, Blue Streak's classic, but they didn't have that one signature wood coaster that all the enthusiasts love to point at and say, hey, look, there's the wood coaster. Yeah, and I know you're a big
modern wood coaster is what they need.
That what?
Not need, but they're missing. Need it, missing, same thing.
Well, yeah. So there's a whole lot of coasters, but everyone has always said, hey, there's no legitimate wood coaster here. And you could bring in GCI and you could put in a GCI by the lake in that if you move stuff around. I'm not saying that you just plop it down. And maybe this comes in, we see a lot of parks cutting maintenance issues out of their lineups, cutting rides that are maintenance headaches. So maybe Tiki Twirl goes away. Maybe maybe
Wicked Twister goes away. I mean, that thing's that has past couple of years, that's been nothing but problems. It seems there's always days where it's down. They've had ladders up, up looking at the LSM launches, looking at I don't think it's LSM, LIM, whatever. One of you engineering coaster nerds can correct me on that. I'll leave that to you guys. But something that launches the train always seems to be broken.
And that's the thing is, like, you have that whole area. You could also move around some stuff out of camp, out of a Planet Snoopy. You have a lot of area to play with. That's a huge midway. People dismiss how big that area is and how much space is actually there, where you could put a wood coaster on the beach, harken back to the old Cedar Point Cyclone, that kind of thing. So that area still open.
They've moved the giant wheel once. Maybe they move that out of the way and move that over.
Wood coaster around it. Like you look at what California's Great America did with Gold Striker. They built the wood Gold Striker around their space spiral. So Space Spiral is right in the middle of the ride. It's actually a really cool look because you got Space Spiral coming up out of it. You got the wood coaster doing a turn around it. It actually looks really good. So you could do something a little bit lower around the giant wheel and give that double look to it. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility either.
Yeah.
You might be able to put a GCI in the Wildcat spot. I don't think there's enough space there personally.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough space there. That's why I was thinking move the giant wheel back to near its original spot where where Wildcat was, and then take out Wicked Twister. You have that whole area in between Gatekeeper and Windseeker.
Well, that's interesting too, because you can't move it to its exact spot because Millennium Force is there, but you can move it real close, and you can move it. You could easily move it to that area. And then, of course, the wood coaster we've talked about in the antique cars area. There's plenty of different options that you can run through over there. And I would love to see a GCI coaster. Now, it's also interesting that Gravity Group is working with Kings Island, where Gravity Group is actually retracking all of the Racer right now.
Yeah.
So that's a company that Cedar Fair has not really worked with extensively. I don't remember who did the tracking on Timberwolf at Worlds of Fun. I'm pretty sure that was a GCI job. I don't think that was Gravity Group, because everyone was surprised when Gravity Group was doing Racer. And supposedly they're reprofiling some of it too. There might be. That's another rumor that's out.
Could be them testing out, okay, how good is your work? We'll see, how this rides out. And
exactly.
We've given you some experience now. And then, if everything goes well, maybe it's like, all right, we'll give you a bid to build us a wood coaster.
And once again, I was telling you on the pre-show, my nephew is right at that 42-inch mark. So when you start looking at the rides that he can ride, obviously he needs to get to 48 to ride a whole lot of the big stuff. But once you get to that 48, a lot of the options for you are all older things. It's things like Magnum and Gemini and Iron Dragon. So there's nothing really like brand new that you can ride as a smaller kid. And how Cedar Point has always tried to market and cater to that, they kind of started moving away from marketing and catering to the smaller kids. They took out things like Disaster Transport. They took out, family rides like Paddle Wheel, but they're putting that back now. So I think a new ride that would have a 48-inch height requirement, and that's a lot of the wood coasters do. I won't swear. What does Mystic Timbers have? Is it 48?
There's has to be 48.
I want to say it's 48, but that's my thinking, is that if you put in a wood coaster like Steel Vengeance is 51, obviously Valraven 50, I think it's like 52 with the vest restraints, Gatekeeper 52.
Sounds about right.
So with Mystic Timbers, I just want to look, it's 48. So that's exactly what you would want. You would want something that you can have bridge from those real small kids who are like 42 riding kiddie rides, riding Woodstock Express is the biggest coaster they can get on. And now all of a sudden bridging them, like Magnum is not a good ride to start a kid on. I'm sorry.
No.
I like Gemini. Okay. Gemini is a good ride. Iron Dragon's a fantastic ride. I always thought Iron Dragon was shorter than 48. I learned this year that it's actually 48.
It used to be like 40.
It used to be either 42 or 46.
I thought it was 42 too. That's why I'm like telling my brother.
I remember a couple of
years
years ago, there was a huge argument, and people were getting mad at Cedar Point because they raised it from whatever it was to 48 inches. It used to be either 42 or 46. Don't remember which one, but it was one of those two. And they upped it to 48 for.
Okay, so I'm not crazy because I thought when he said he's like 41 inches right now. I said, oh, he'll be able to get on Iron Dragon, and then we looked it up, and it was like 48. I'm like, why would you need to be 48 inches to ride Iron Dragon?
Who knows?
Like, why would you need to be that tall? Like, it's a good ride. I love Iron Dragon, but nobody's falling out of Iron Dragon anytime soon. So
that's the one ride they let you take all your loose articles on. So
exactly. I'm like, teddy bears can ride Iron Dragon, but a 42-inch kid can't. So there's that. But then, so the wood coaster I think is really exciting, is really like, hey, that could be something. But then the other thing that I thought about, and I thought about this either once again probably in the first two spots, in either the beach or by the celebration area by Wildcat. And that would be in this, and I got this idea by looking at what was here. So I looked at the sunglasses and the glow tape, and that glow tape is that neon green is almost the exact color that Wildcat was. Wildcat had that second paint job as purple and that like neon yellow, neon greenish color. And I just thought to myself, and there was this rumor floating around last year that they were going to bring back Wildcat for the 150th anniversary. I think we talked about that too at some point. That they were going to buy a Wildcat, bring it in for a couple months, and then get rid of it, which that never made sense to me. But what does make sense to me is putting in an infinity coaster like Monster at Adventureland or Hang Time at Knott's Berry Farm, putting in one of those in that area, because those rides are, one, really small. They could fit very easily. They're very twisty, very loopy. Also, both of those have amazing light packages. Hang Time has an amazing light package, and Monster has an amazing light package. Like, these are the coasters where as the train goes, you've seen these all the time, as the train goes, the color changes behind it. So you get this awesome trail effect. And I think with the luminosity stage there, that you have that colors, and you have the lighting package interact with what's going on the stage too at night. And I think you could just enhance that whole experience over there and do something else. And the green glow tape, and then the sunglasses, like, because it's so bright, like that to me was what I jumped to automatically. And I have to go look at how tall you have to be to ride Hang Time.
Yeah, I think the only issue with those is, they don't have amazing capacity.
Yeah.
And a ride like that, it's not a Wildcat. It's more intense. There's loops. There's beyond 90-degree drops, whatever. So
but guess what?
A lot of people are going to want to ride those. What is it? 48 inches.
48 inches.
Hey.
It's 48 inches. Like that would be the perfect transition coaster for any kid, because it has loops in it. It has like that initial like dive off of it. Like Knott's Berry Farm calls theirs a dive coaster. It's not a dive coaster. They like, that's not a dive coaster. It's a very steep inversion coaster. But you don't have to do it like that either. You can do it more like Monster, where you have the straight vertical lift and then you go right into the drop.
The only other problem I have with putting something like that in that spot is, the reason they took out Wildcat was, one, it was having, maintenance issues, but two, it would have made such a bottleneck for everyone watching the show, when Luminosity was when Luminosity was a thing, but now the nighttime show, it would just create a huge bottleneck if it was there.
Now with that extra Cedars being gone, you can push everything out and then
back
and redirect that road around the coaster. So you wouldn't have the road go underneath the coaster. That's probably a bad idea. Although Knott's does that with Ghost Rider. So when you go to the Knott's Berry Hotel, you drive underneath Ghost Rider to get to the hotel. So it's not unheard of. When you go to Great America in Chicago here, if you use the secondary entrance that's on the south side of the park, you drive underneath American Eagle, and there's no issues there. So it's not unheard of that you would drive under a roller coaster. I just don't think they would do that when you can just easily redirect the road. You could push that all back a little bit. You could actually make that bottleneck better, and by expanding the park, and by expanding those borders, and get rid of the bottleneck altogether, and put a roller coaster there, and everyone's happy again. So I think it would be. I would love to see a Wildcat return. Call it Wildcat, paint it in the purple and neon yellow. I think the neon yellow will accept colors very well. If your track is the neon yellow and then your cars are purple, or your rails are purple, I think it would accept the colors very well. And once again, the 48-inch height requirement, I think, is a huge deal, when everything you've put in the last few years has been 51, 52, 54, 51. It's just it's getting to the point where, like, yeah, that's only 3 inches more, but when you're a kid and you're that age, like, those 3 inches could be a pretty big deal. So I think having a newer ride at the 48-inch level would be really important. What's Millennium Force?
I think that might be 48, but that's also not like a good transition. You're not going from riding Blue Streak and Iron Dragon to jumping up to Millennium, unless you're a really brave kid. But that was not me when I was a kid. I needed to have the the in between rides to.
Yeah, Millennium's at 48 too. So but like you said, Millennium is not your transition ride. Oh my God, that is not your transition ride at all. It's just funny that it's funny that in the year 2021, we are talking about Millennium Force as possibly being a transition ride for little kids. Like, this is like, if somebody would have said this in the year 2000 and said, oh yeah, Millennium Force, it's a transition ride for little kids, people would have fell off their chairs. Be like, what are you talking about? So I guess my point is that I really like the idea of, I hope they get both of these things eventually. I would love to see them get an Infinity Coaster. I absolutely love Monster at Adventureland, and Hang Time, when I rode it at Knott's, was really, really good too. I would love for Cedar Point to get one of those rides. They are absolutely fantastic. And so I've been on over 500 roller coasters. I rank Monster at Adventureland probably in my top 30. So it's a legitimate roller coaster. It's not like, hey, this is a throwaway ride. Monster at Adventureland is a legitimate roller coaster. It's gonna satisfy young kids. It's gonna satisfy adults. It's not like a Wild Mouse or like some throwaway ride, something like that. Like, this is a legitimate ride. And then, of course, a GCI wood coaster, or even a Gravity Group wood coaster. Gravity Group's been doing some fantastic stuff too. I'm trying to find some of their examples of stuff that they do. Let me look one up. It's Roar. Yeah, I think this is, so Gravity Group did Roarosaurus, a smaller kids ride. Oscar's Wacky Taxi, that usually is talked about in the Thrilling 32 sometimes, at Sesame Place. So Gravity Group does some really good wood coasters. So if it's GCI or Gravity Group, I think you win either way in either of those situations. I just want to see because I think, where is I want to see what the height requirement is for Roarosaurus, because Gravity Group uses the different type of lap bars.
Yeah, it's like
come
that
over
side,
you. It's like a side thing, and I'm trying to find their website real quick so I can see, just out of curiosity, if it's lower than 48, because that would be
huge.
That would be really big. Things to do, attractions. Roarosaurus. Guess what? Roarosaurus is 42 inches.
Ooh, that changes things.
That changes things a little bit, doesn't it? And I wonder that's really interesting, because the fact that Gravity Group is retracking Racer says that Cedar Fair is working with that company now. I just want to go see Kentucky Flyer at Kentucky Kingdom, because that just opened up. And if that one is Kentucky Flyer, now this is interesting too.
So Kentucky Flyer, now Kentucky Flyer is a lot tamer than some of these rides that you have to be 46 inches to ride alone, but 40 inches if you ride with somebody else.
Huh, that's interesting.
But Kentucky Flyer also has a maximum weight of 300 pounds. Well, that's not going to be good for anybody. I with the pandemic, Steve, I've been knocking on that door a few times.
You're up there.
I've not entered the building yet, but I've been knocking on the door. So I need to lose a few pounds here. But that's also interesting too, that I think you would stay in the 42-inch range, not drop down all the way to 40, maybe put a companion thing on it. But that would be a big deal to have. Now, my little nephew, a wood coaster like that would be a great transition. And like I said, things like Rorosaurus and Oscar's Wacky Taxi are both discussed within the top 50 of the Thrilling 32 every year. So these also are legitimate roller coasters. They're for kids. Oscar's Wacky Taxi, obviously for kids, but a lot of people really love what those coasters do. So, that's just another layer there of intrigue of, is this a Gravity Group coaster and not a GCI coaster? Good question, right? So
maybe we'll find out in 2022.
2022,
or later
hopefully.
this year, if stuff starts happening.
I'll tell you what, if they are doing something, we're going to see a teaser campaign, because Cedar Point, they love to get involved in stuff. They love to get people hyped up. I think they got people a little too hyped up, a little too early.
Now they're like, oh wait, we got to backtrack a little bit. We can't be talking about this too early. We got they usually wait till August, September to make those type of announcements. So
exactly, we need to moderate our hype a little bit here. So
we still have the 150th anniversary to celebrate. We're not.
Well, and that's the other thing. They don't like to take away from what they're doing right now. So they're going to be talking about the 150th anniversary. They're going to be talking about the different floats and Snake River Expedition. So they're going to be talking about all of that. But come June, July, that's when they've traditionally started talking about other things.
It'll be interesting because Coaster Mania is happening this year, and Coaster Campout seemed like it's going to happen. So it'll be I'm probably not going to go to either, but it'll be interesting to see, if any type of announcements or any type of additional teasers are going to be announced then.
Well, I fully expect to go to the park this year. I fully expect to go to the park this year. Coaster Mania, if I can get tickets, I really want to go to that just to get back into the swing of things, So being a teacher, I'm already fully vaxxed, so I'm good to go. Let's
still waiting on mine. I got, who knows when I'll get it, but
you're still waiting your turn. So I think with that, we'll wrap it up here tonight. It's exciting to see what they're going to do here. Hopefully it's 2022. I'd love to see another new coaster in 2022. But if not, I'm sure they still need that dark ride that you've been talking about.
They definitely do need a dark ride. But, recently with just, not too much going on, it has not been CP Unlimited. It's been CP Limited.
Limited, extremely
CP limited, but hopefully
CP Limited Edition.
Hopefully we get back to the unlimited stuff, as the park starts open, as we get there and just all the new stuff. I mean, once the park opens, I probably won't be there opening day, or maybe not even opening weekend, just because I think I have some stuff going on. But I'm going to get there as soon as I can, and we'll have stuff to talk about, about how, changes that we've seen compared to, how last year was, and, moving on to this year. And then once all the festivities start with the 150th, I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yep. So as always, I am Andy Robarchuk from Chicago, Illinois.
And I am Steve Lynn from Cleveland, Ohio.
Right on, Ride Warriors.